Hi and welcome. I'm Wayne and this is Let's Start Cooking. I hope everybody's having a great Father's Day weekend. Happy Father's Day. Today we're going to make a classic cheesecake. And the first thing we're going to start with is our pan. We're going to get that prepared and ready. If you don't have a spring-form pan, which if you don't, it's no big deal, you can go to the store and you can buy the pre-loaded pie shells that already have the graham cracker crust. You can use those too if you don't have one of these. If you do have one of these, the first thing I normally do is I normally put a piece of aluminum foil in the bottom of it and I just fold it over, and it makes it a lot easier to slide that cheesecake off once you're done with it. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna take 1.5 cups of crushed graham crackers. If you have a food processor or a blender, you can do it in that, or if not, you can put this in a Ziploc and you can roll a rolling pin over it. But we're going to take this and we're going to put this into 7 tablespoons of melted butter. We're just going to put that right in. And to that we're going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. And we're just going to take that and we're just going to mix it up and incorporate everything together. We just want to make sure that we can get everything together so everything stays want to get all this together, mix this all up. Now you might not need all of this. It depends on what you want to do. Sometimes you can take this and if you have enough, you can go up the sides. If you want to go up the side of it a little bit, or if you just want to put it on the bottom, you can just do that. You don't have to go up the sides if you don't want to. And obviously if you're using the pie shells that already have the graham cracker crust in it, you don't need this at all. But if you're going to use a spring pan, then you're going to want to mix this up. And once you get this all mixed up, we're going to take this, and all we're going to do is put a little bit in at a time, and we're just going to pour it right in. And we're just going to press this gently into the bottom of the pan. You don't want to press too hard because the tighter you pack this, it's going to make the crust real hard, and we don't want to do that. So we just want to pack this in just lightly. All we want is we don't want to have loose crumbles laying on top, that's all. And you try to get this nice and even. Put a little bit more in, we'll get it in here. And you just kind of go around. Like I said, if you have enough and you want to make more and you do have a spring-form pan, you can always go up the sides of it. Okay, and once that's done, we just put this to the side now, and we're going to start our actual cheesecake. So what we're going to do first, we're going to set this aside. We're going to take 32 ounces of room temperature cream cheese. And we want it room temperature because it's going to be a lot easier, not only on your mixer. Now, if you don't have a stand mixer, you can use a hand mixer. You can even do this by hand if you want to take the time. But we're just going to put this right in. And this is full fat. It's not low fat. It's a full fat cream cheese. We're going to get that in. We're just going to mix this up slow to start. And all we're trying to do is just break it up and get it creamy again. We don't want to whip this, so you don't want to go real fast with it. You just want to soften it up and get it mixed up a little bit. We'll tip this up. And that's our oven that we preheated at 325 degrees. Like I said, so you're just going to break this up. I'm going to whip it again. I should say mix, don't whip this. Okay. Now to that, we're going to add 1 cup of sugar. We can just add it right in the side here. We're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, and 2/3 a cup of sour cream. All right. And of course, I made a mess again. That's okay. We're going to mix this up. And like I said, you don't want to go real fast. You just want to mix this up. Get this mixed up a little bit. I'm going to take our spatula. I'm going to rub everything down. Now when you add your eggs, it takes 4 large eggs. And what we want to do is you want to add them one at a time. And you want to add them slow. You don't want to put them all in at one time. You want them to mix one at a time. So we're going to take 1 egg at a time. I'm just going to crack that right in there. All right. And even with this, you don't want to mix this real fast. You just want to incorporate these eggs. We're going to let them go. We're going to let them mix up a little bit. We're going to mix it all together, but we want to do it one at a time. We want to give these a chance to mix in. Now we'll do another egg. All right. This is why we want to let it do one at a time, because we want this to slowly get creamier. And we don't want to put them all in there, because if we put them all in there, we'll have to run this faster. And we don't want to run it any faster than what we're doing. We don't want to whip this up, because if you whip it up, you're going to get air into this, and you don't want air into this cheesecake. All right. That's 3. We'll put the 4th egg in, and once we get the 4th egg in, we're going to scrape the sides down, and we're going to let this mix up a little bit more. We're going to get this nice and smooth, and then we're going to get the pan ready to have this put into it. It's not a real hard recipe. It's a fairly easy recipe. As you can see, there wasn't a whole lot of ingredients, and you can do this very easily. Put our last egg in. All right. Now we're going to let this mix up. And once I get this all mixed up, what I'll do then is I'm going to scrape the sides down, let it run a little bit longer to make sure we don't have any big lumps of cream cheese. But even as this cooks, If you do have a small lump, it's going to melt in the cream cheese. You just don't want it big enough that it's going to fall to the bottom. And we'll scrape the sides down. That's why I said you got to be careful, because you want to make sure you have no lumps on your beater. So we're going to make sure that they get all mixed up. Push all that off to the side. And we're going to make sure we scrape all this down around the side, because we don't want elements falling to the bottom when we're done. All right. Get all this mixed up. Make sure it's not on the top. We'll let this go a little bit to mix this up. And like I said, you don't want to go any further than any faster, because if you go faster, you're only going to whip air into this, and you don't want this. Cheesecake's not supposed to have a lot of air in it. All right. Now that we have that, we're going to take our pan now. Now the next thing we're going to do while this is done, we're going to prepare the pan the rest of the way. When you're making a cheesecake, you want to give it what they call a water bath. When you bake this, you're going to bake this in a pan with water. So to make sure that we don't get anything in the pan, we're going to take aluminum foil. And I just folded it like that. And I have two of them. And I'm going to take them, and I'm just going to lay them next to each other. And I'm just going to take light over and fold them down and almost make a seam that I'm going to make into one. Just roll it up. They don't have to be perfect, because all we're doing is just going to do this, flatten it down, and you're going to take your pan and lay it right over it. And we're just going to bring the sides up. This doesn't have to be neat. All we're doing is making sure that we don't get water in this pan. And you just crumple this up. Make sure we don't get any water in this pan, because obviously if we do, you're not going to have cheesecake anymore. All right? And now that we have that, I like to, just for security, I like to use a regular oven roasting bag. And all I do is I just take it and I just fold it under. And I take the pan and I lay the pan right inside of it. And again, this isn't for anything other than just protecting the bottom of that pan. That's all we're doing. Because we're going to lay this whole thing, into a pan with water. And we don't want the water to seep into this pan. So now that we have this done, take this out and make a mess anyway. We're just going to take our cheesecake mix and we're just going to dump it right into the pan. And you're going to see some lumps in it because it is cream cheese, but as this bakes, those lumps will go away. And we're just going to dump this right in. What you want to do is you want to take this. We're going to bang this on the... Because what we want to do is we want to get as many air bubbles out of it as we can. And once you have that, now we're going to take our roasting pan, and I just use an old roasting pan that we used to use for Thanksgiving. And this is all I use. I mean, because we're not cooking in it anymore. We're just putting water in it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pan first. I'm going to take the pan and I'm going to put it in first. That's all I'm going to do. Now be very careful when you do this, because you're going to take a pot of hot, preferably close to boiling water, and we're going to dump it in this pan. That's why I like a nice deep roasting pan. You don't have to fill this. You only want to come up about 1 inch, but you want enough water in here to keep that moisture and that steam inside the oven while you're doing this. So we're going to carefully, I say carefully, we're going to dump the water into the pan. And like I said, you don't have to go far. We're not trying to fill this pan. Okay, that's about all you need. You just need enough that you're going to have water in this pan as it bakes. And now what you're going to do is you're going to put this in the oven at 325 degrees, and this is going to bake for about 60 to 75 minutes. It takes a long time, and depending on the humidity and your oven type, it could take a little bit longer. What you're going to look for is you're going to look for the sides, the edges to start puffing up, and the center is going to be a little jiggly. It should be able to you should be able to touch it with your finger, and you shouldn't get any on you. Or you can do the cake thing where you're going to put this toothpick in the center and comes out clean. You should see it start to puff up on the edges, and you should get just a little bit of wiggle in the center. Because remember, this is cheese, so as it cools off, it's going to stiffen up and get thicker. So for now, we're going to put this in the oven, and we're going to bake it for 325 degrees for 60 to 75 minutes. And then when it comes out, we're going to let it cool in the pan for about 10 minutes, and then this has to chill overnight before you serve this. So we're going to put this in the oven. We'll show you when it comes out, and then we'll put it in the refrigerator, and we'll let it chill overnight, and you'll see that too. So we'll be right back. All right, we're back. It's been about 70 minutes. We just came out of the oven. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna let this sit for about 10 minutes, and then you're gonna wanna run a knife very gently around the edge. And you wanna make sure that you can get in there and move the edge away from the pan. And then you're gonna let this cool for about an hour before you put it in the refrigerator. Now, you can take the foil off after that if you want before you put it in the refrigerator, but we're gonna let this sit now for 10 minutes, run a knife around the edge, let it sit for about an hour, and then we're gonna put it in the refrigerator until tomorrow. And then we'll take the pan off and we'll plate it. So until tomorrow, I'll see you then. Edge, we're back. It's been 12 hours. We've had this in the refrigerator. And now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make sure the same thing that we did last night before we put it in. About after 10 minutes, we're going to take a knife, and we're just going to slowly go around the edges and make sure that it's not sticking to the pan. We're just going to go all the way around, and we're going to make sure that everything is loose. And you'll see it, because you'll see it start to pull away from the edges. And once we know that, and again, if you used a pre-loaded pan, you don't have to worry about any of this. Now we're going to gently hopefully and that's it. It's just going to come right out for you. Now, I normally do not put toppings on my cheesecakes. I normally make them like this, and if I have guests coming over and I want to serve cheesecake, what I'll do is I'll go out and get the individual cans of pie filling, cherry, strawberry, blueberry, whatever you like, and I'll put that in a separate bowl. And this way, when they get their cheesecake, they can put the topping they want on it. Because sometimes you might serve cheesecake with cherries on it, and somebody might not like cherries. and then they won't take a cheesecake. I make sure the knife is wet. We're just going to take a little slice out for now. This is the fun part, trying to get a piece out. I think I see the foil. And that. It's real creamy. It's a dense cheesecake. It's real sweet. And like I said, I normally put toppings on it after somebody orders or wants it. But other than that, it's not that hard of a recipe to do. And it's more wait time than it is actually preparing it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you come back and see us again. And happy Father's Day.